company in '73, at the urging of an original member of ASHI, Claxton Walker, Clackney, told my dad, "Oh God, Matt, you got to do this. You know, you go out for an hour, you spend about an hour and a half, tell people a little bit, they'll pay you 25, 30 bucks. That's great extra income." And that was sort of how it started. So, you know, when I first started, especially the first 10 years, it's probably happened to many of you. You walk into a house, you introduce yourself, give the client an idea of what you're going to do. You know, you ask, for me, I asked them, you've been in the house a couple times? Oh, yeah, yeah. Were there any concerns that you had, something that you wanted me to pay particular attention to? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What is that? I've never seen that before in my life. But I typically will tell them that, well, we'll get to that, and you know, we'll start over here. And meanwhile, the gears in my head are trying to figure out what that is that they're pointing at. So what is it? Is it a problem? And what do we say about it? I think that's how I try to approach much of it. So for any of you, anyone know what this is? Anyone's seen one before?
Several firebomb.
Yes.
Filled with methyl chloride.
Carbon tetrachloride.
Or carbon tetrachloride.
What's the problem with it?
It will turn into a nerve gas if it's heated.
Yes, and if you breathe it, might kill you.
But the house won't burn.
But the house won't burn down. Where do you typically find them?
Over the furnace.
Over the furnace boiler, and not in and typically not in a big residential neighborhood. Out in the middle of the country where there wasn't any protection. I've only seen about 5 of these things, and of course, the first time I had no clue what it was. But certainly I made sure that I told them that I wasn't sure what it was. Other than I could read on it that it talked about, you know, throw at the base of a fire. And you ought to call the local fire marshal and let them help you with it. Feel free at any point to ask questions. Again.
That includes the online audience. If you have a
Yeah,
question,
please.
so keep your mic muted unless you have a question, but if you have a question, unmute and we can hear you.
I've seen ones that aren't glass but are metal. So they're not always glass.
Right. Seen one as a almost like a cartridge.
Yeah.
I have seen, yes. Yeah, brass. Again, a fire extinguisher as it might be. I think if you haven't run into them, yeah, you need to let your clients know that it is potentially very dangerous, toxic, could kill you. And it needs to be disposed of carefully. Okay. This house was not too far away from where we were yesterday at the pre-drywall. So you look at that chimney, and actually, this is a chimney up in Ivesville, a house in Ivesville. And on the other side of the house, on the left side, was the same thing.
Same direction.
Both leaning in.
Yeah, both leaning in.
Both leaning in. Could not figure out for the life of me what this was. I walked through the house, I don't see, there's no fireplace, there's no flue running up through any of this, nothing. Wasn't until I decided I better get up, follow this down. Went to the attic, and this is the best I can do. But this chimney was built on the roof trusses here and set up, and you can see where the inside of it, the inner side, is built in framing, and it is leaning because of the shrinkage. The master bedroom was below this one, and there was a deflection in the drywall that had been repaired a couple of times, and no one ever mentioned to the people that this is this way. I intended to stop by there yesterday to take another photo. The chimneys are gone, the brickwork has been replaced. The roof has been replaced, the fascia along the gable ends have all been corrected. But you can see, if you look carefully, you can see where they had to correct some of the brickwork, because as it leaned, it opened up. And broke apart the brick a bit.
So
But these, yes,
would that qualify as a bracket chimney? Cause.
okay,
Bracket
it's not
chimney,
that, yeah.
bracket chimney
Chimneys-
is typically built on
on
wood.
what's right.
supports.
I guess, but it has no, serve no purpose. There's no venting of anything. It's just aesthetic. It was completely aesthetic. No flue, nothing.
Masonry should never be supported by wood.
Correct.
That's true.
Unreinforced, at least, yeah.
Untreated.
Okay. We've all seen this. And your client, have they ever asked you, well, is it a problem?
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be. It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. But what a great breeze. Yeah, here we got great cross ventilation. So, you know, what do we say? You know, obviously, we need to make sure that we're making notes of our observations. Licensed master electrician ought to evaluate, determine, huh?
Doesn't need to evaluate.
Well, you know, I tell them to evaluate the entire box.
Right.
Yeah, you need to oftentimes I warn my clients that you are going to be, somebody is going to replace this box. I'm not, we're not there to tell them who's responsible for what. But we don't let it go.
Back up one,
What's that?
back up one again.
Yes,
The mains are painted.
Paint over.
All the paint overspray.
over, yes,
Yeah. That would decertify it then.
that, right. Okay. What about, how many of us have had this client? You know, you can lead a horse to water. But it's okay, isn't it? Well, how do you all approach that when the client just doesn't get it? In any particular condition, scenario.
It's working, isn't it?
What's that?
The realtors are saying it's working, isn't it?
Right, they're not the ones who are being paid to render the opinion.
Right.
But what do you say to your client?
Well, we say, we don't know what their risk tolerance is.
Yeah.
I've known people that would look at a house like that, it'll buff out. And then I've known clients who walk away from the house because, the toilet clearance is a little bit narrow.
Right,
So we don't know what their trigger points are.
yes,
And that's not my job anyway. I
No.
go. I
Right.
say, I'm being paranoid on your behalf. What you do with the information is
Right,
entirely. up to
right.
you.
Exactly.
We present the seriousness of something and have them absolutely.
I tell clients that, when they ask an open question like that, I go, "Look, what's the grade of the house?
Yes.
I say, look, I'm here to educate you on the concerns that I'm identifying. I don't know your threshold, just like what you're saying, what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable
Yeah.
with. And so this may be a good conversation to also have with your realtor, because you start getting into like, should I buy the house? Should I not buy the house? And that's, gotta stay in our lane. So I just tell them, I'm giving you the information. I can't tell you what to do with it.
Sure.
I actually, at the end, will tell people this is average, more than or less than, to give them perspective. Because if a house that has a lot of problems, I say, look, this house needs a lot of different details, this is a little bit more than average, or it's a lot more, or it's pretty normal. There's no perfect house, they need to know that,
Yep.
put it in some type of perspective. Because most people are freaked out at the end, they're overwhelmed.
Right,
Oftentimes we'll talk about what we call a duck house. And they look at it just like you all did. And we said, you've taken your kids to the park, right? And you fed the ducks. They nibble on you and it's cute. That's like a house that has one problem. Get 2 ducks. It's not so cute anymore.
right,
You get a whole flock of ducks nibbling on your fingers. It hurts.
right,
We've told people this is a duck house.
yeah,
You got a whole lot of things, none of them are big. But taken as a whole, it's a duck.
there's a whole lot going on, right,
And
Sure.
what's typical for like an older home, you're gonna see a lot of these tic-tac things, whatever, so, and kind of going to what Dave was saying, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
you have to put it in perspective as well.
Right. And I don't know, I certainly look at a house that was built in 1890 a whole lot differently than a house in 1950. You know,
You have to want to live in an older home.
yeah, I mean, you have to realize that, you know, the floors are gonna creak. And the floors are not level. And the doors, if they've never replaced them, have been cut to fit around the wood that is, you know, that is shifted and shrunk and what have you. How close do we look at furnaces, old furnaces? Or do we just write them off? For me, I still geek out on an old atmospheric furnace. I'll take that flame shroud off. I got no problems taking that thing off and throwing a mirror in there. I don't like to pawn it off on the HVAC contractor. Just because it's old doesn't mean, just have it evaluated and looked at by an HVAC contractor when, in this case, I can go ahead and I can show them the heat exchange is cracked. It's not the best picture, but it's cracked. This furnace at 34 years old is done. You can't get a replacement, so they don't even have to bother with getting the HVAC contractor to do an evaluation. It's looking at, you know, getting a price, you know, for replacement. Who's looking at old furnaces this way, or are you just sending it to the HVAC contractor?
They're 34 years old, I say they're excessively beyond their service life. And, I mean, I would look at it like you, but I'm like, look. Kindly replace this, or you have to have it serviced every year before your season.
Not only that, it's gonna cost you extra money, because they're not as efficient. Energy.
Well, true. All of those things,
All of them.
right? So I ran into this, and it's hard to see, but down in this corner, there is a fan.
Yes, that's.
Right on. Right
This
on
is
mitigation.
a Harry homeowner radon mitigation system.
They know.
Okay, that's-
Do it yourself.
Wow,
Try to do it yourself. Sure, not successful.
do something.
My goodness gracious, the things we see in houses. I've never seen this before. I'll never see this again.
Now, I recognize that because I've seen one not at all like that, but just equally creative.
Yeah.
Right, and I explained to the client, I'm not sure what this is, but if I had to guess, I would say somebody tried to invent a radon mitigation system. And it's creative, and he said, so I shouldn't I shouldn't think of it as exceptionally dependable. And I said, well, I wouldn't think of it as dependable at all.
Oh,
In
right.
fact, it's probably wasting electricity.
The homeowner was very proud of this.
Oh, yes.
Aren't they always?
Um,
Every word.
I didn't ask him what his numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't bother. But I, of course, let them know that this, wasn't quite the way a system ought to be installed. And of course, you know, preface that in saying, I'm not a radon mitigation specialist. This is not the way I've ever seen one installed. You better have this investigated a little bit further.
It looks like they have a screw jack column there, and that
Yes.
column should be welded at the screw jack so that that cannot be removed.
You're speaking about right here, yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you. There was a lady living in this house. No meter. The power was on. And that was hot.
Yeah.
And somebody had been recently in it, you can see the old tag here, the lock, the new one here. But the power was on. And, well, obviously, I made a phone call to Patkus, our local power company in DC. How deadly this potentially is the house was falling down. The real estate agent was attempting trying to find a way to get the woman out of the house. She refused to move. It was her neighbor. She'd known for years, you know. and the back porch was falling off, the gap between the house and the back porch was large enough that you could literally pass a jar of Grey Poupon through it. There were fractures through the foundation. Old galvanized water pipe literally dripping. One was conveniently dripping right into a toilet. So we're always looking. You never know what you're gonna find.
A comment on that? Is if we see something like that, that is a hazard to the current occupants, we are
Obligated.
we're obligated to either tell the municipal people and or the current resident, this is dead.
Yeah, I had that conversation with her. The reason I called Petco was because she had some memory issues, it seemed. So there were some issues, so with age and the like.
So it was clearly hot wired behind that panel.
This is going up to an AC unit up on the roof. This is going right around it. This is the hot line here. Coming in and coming it back out, going in.
There's no meter.
Oh, it's hot wired inside, absolutely,
Yeah,
somehow. But there's a tag here. That tag was locked. It had not been Jimmy. Or if it was, I could not see it.
That's crazy.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you come across a house, and in the backyard, the guy's a shade tree mechanic. Oil. Do we want to say something about this?
Environmental hazard.
And we make sure they know that what might it do? Obviously, soil contamination, possibly the well. We don't necessarily need to know if it's contaminated, but the client needs to. Testing is required. They need to call the local EPA. And get obviously somebody's gonna fined a lot of money, I think, because this was just a small patch. So it isn't just looking necessarily right at the house. Gotta look out in the yard. Walk around. First off, the fact that we have a PVC line coming out of a tankless water heater seems a little odd. And discolored.
You can have high efficiency tanks.
Okay, this one was not one of them.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
yeah. The overheat, and you can see because it is discolored, it is changing the structure of that PVC. Looking carefully, again, just because it's that, you gotta continue, always looking. Here on the side of the heat stain, you could not read any of this, it had melted. I told the owners of the house, or the tenant in this apartment, that they needed to stop using this water heater. That it was venting, there was all kinds of venting issues besides that. Venting into the unit and potentially very deadly, obviously.
Bill died peacefully in his sleep.
Right. So don't see much of anything. I mean, the downspout's a little beat up, and hey, that's splash block. We're carrying the water away. You've got to go. Looking at something like this, you've got to go as far as you can. As you get to the other side, here, and pier is going. And I did not put the photo on the backside that some of the water was gone there. Want to make sure you've got the whole story when you're looking. Don't rush. Take your time. Cost you less money to make sure you've got things right than to skip it. Because the client is going to come back to you. But why didn't you say anything? It was visible. I saw it as soon as I looked under there. Then again, just because it's working doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Brand new house. Long jets. Yeah. These are houses, the house is propane.
So the conversion kit comes with that range and a new
Yeah,
construction,
absolutely.
they just hadn't installed.
They just hadn't done it, right?
Just like the anti-tip.
Yes, 5 minute
Yes,
job is 5 minutes.
Absolutely, it goes in, often it ends up in the box and it heads out the door. Making sure you're looking, gang. Hey, all I can tell you is
That's your leg.
that's my leg.
Oh, my.
Learn how to drive.
That's my leg.
I
I've had two nasties on my leg, on legs, two on my head. That's why I always wear a cap, always wear a hat. I had, twice in a matter of 10 days. I cut my head open, but the second or third year I was doing inspections on a chandelier, two different houses in the same neighborhood, vacant houses, and I ran into the chandelier. The Sibley Hospital got stitches, went back the second time, the same triage nurse was there, she said, oh my God, you tore your stitches out. I said, no, I got another one. She didn't have to shave my head. It was all open and clean, so yeah, you've got to be careful out there, gang. And last but not least, hey, my dad, I dedicated this to him. And golly, isn't that a nice low number?
Yeah.
37. What's your number?
641.
641. What was JD's number?
190, 191
That was,
maybe?
it was under 100.
I think it's 191.
No, it was under 100.
No, I don't think JD's was.
His license plate had his number on it, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 191.
Was it?
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. So, my dad, again, he was charter member of ASHI, of MAC. I wish I'd brought it, one of our original report forms, a single page.
So,
One page, that was it.
Yeah.
I could spend an hour,
yellow legal pad?
Huh?
A yellow legal pad?
Well, no, it was actually, it was.
You had a form.
It was not legal, it was legal size, but it was NCR paper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started doing inspections, our report forms were 5 pages. Oh, God,
That many.
that many. You only wish now, how woeful. I mean, again, my dad started before ASHI.
Yeah.
There was no ASHI at that point. He got in at the urging of Blackie Walker, yeah, so
JD dash number is 193.
93, I'm sorry,
193.
okay, I was
That's
sorry.
on the ASHI website.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
There. Thanks.
Any case, well, thanks, gang, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.